So this is what Ukraine has been hearing. As long as it takes, closer to NATO than ever before, and more security guarantees. Now, Ukraine has heard it all, and yet what is interesting is that no one is hearing Ukraine out. Now, this image from the NATO summit is grabbing eyeballs. While we don't want to assume as to what exactly were the circumstances in which this image was captured, it somehow seems to describe how Volodymyr Zelensky is feeling in Vilnius. Nobody quite clearly expected a yes or a no on Ukraine's membership into the NATO military alliance, but what Kiev demanded was a timeline, a sort of a roadmap to get a membership into the NATO military alliance, which would include details like when, where, under what conditions. But instead, this is what Kiev has got.
Ukraine is now closer to NATO than ever before. Allies reaffirmed that Ukraine will become a member of the alliance and agreed to remove the requirement for a membership action plan. Guarantees, documents, councils, meetings are important, but the most urgent task now is to ensure enough weapons to Ukraine, to President Zelensky and his armed forces. So the most urgent task is, of course, to ensure that Ukraine prevails, because unless Ukraine prevails, then there is no membership issue to be discussed at all.
The NATO chief said that Ukraine is now closer to NATO than ever before. Now, what he's talking about is the NATO-Ukraine Council. The council is new, but the purpose, of course, is pretty old. It will be used for meetings to discuss the arms that should be given to Ukraine. Now, the move is being seen as part of NATO's efforts to bring Kiev as close as possible to the alliance without actually making it join it. And Zelensky, of course, could do nothing but accept this proposal.
We are sane people. We understand that our partners are helping us with weapons, and this is a moment of survival, and we need it very much. We understand that some people are really afraid to talk about our membership in NATO right now because no one wants a world war, and this is also understandable and logical.
While the issue is being put to rest for now, it has also unmasked a clear divide in the NATO bloc, where the Eastern European nations who were once part of the Soviet are now on Ukraine's side. They've been demanding for a clear roadmap. In many sense, they seem to be much more aware of Russia's territorial ambitions. So before the war knocks on the doors, they want NATO to act first. All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what this, of course, means for the war in Ukraine that is raging on at this moment, we're being joined by Dr. Lada Roslewski. He's the founder of Black Trident Defense and Security Consulting Group. He's joining us live in this broadcast. Dr. Roslewski, this is a key moment in this war. Now, the Ukrainian side has been pushing for, at least a roadmap of sorts for it to join the NATO military alliance. But what it appears to be getting are just loud reassurances. Words like closer than ever before. But what does it mean for Ukraine?
What it means for Ukraine is that it really needs to start working more effectively and intensely with bilateral agreements with countries that belong to NATO and other Ramstein countries. Ramstein is a defense aid and support group that has been helping and facilitating supply Ukraine with the necessary defense aid. Nobody really was expecting to have an invitation for Ukraine to join NATO today. And it's extremely important to pay attention to the rising level of rhetoric, particularly in the last 2-3 weeks, that NATO is not only a military alliance, that it is a political alliance.
All right, now, but quite clearly, at this moment, the reason why Ukraine wants to be a part of the NATO alliance is because it wants more security guarantees from the West. But the way things appear to be shaping up, even the American President Joe Biden seemed less than enthusiastic about spelling out a roadmap to somehow bring Ukraine closer into the ambit of NATO. What do you make of that?
In fact, what you're referring to, a roadmap, is something that is being, the membership action plan is something that is being highlighted as a positive maneuver from NATO's side by saying that Ukraine does not have to have a membership action plan, which is in fact a roadmap with deadlines and conditionality on reforms. So there's no roadmap. They said there will be no roadmap, and it's a sort of release of pressure. And now the focus will be really on how effective is that NATO-Ukraine Council going to be, and what are they going to be discussing, how frequently, because the system is moving so slowly that Ukraine is being genocided. The numbers of deaths of civilians, let alone the military and armed forces, are astounding. So the time, there's not very much time.
All right, now my last quick question to you is this NATO-Ukraine Council. How is it likely to change what is unfolding on the battlegrounds of Ukraine? Because the NATO nations have said that they've been backing Ukraine to the hilt. They've been sending the weapons that Ukraine needs to defend itself. But the American President Joe Biden, in fact, went on to admit that Ukraine is running short of weapons. So how does this council now help the Ukrainians?
Well, the council is at least an established institution now, but the political movement is extremely slow, and we know how meetings take. So although it's a very positive move, the question that you asked earlier is what does how long it takes really mean? Because we don't have an endless amount of men and women who are going to be killed while they're figuring out how to help us. Ukraine is in desperate need of additional military support from state and private military businesses, industry.
Absolutely indeed. Dr. Roslysky, thank you very much indeed for joining us from Kiev and getting us all that perspective there.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.